somebody who needs to learn networking, as in I have a product to sell, I need to meet people, I know networking is the tool, the vehicle that I'm going to use for that, so let's go do it.
You are listening to educationhackers.com, podcasting from Vancouver, Canada. Education Hackers highlights successful entrepreneurs with great online courses. And now, to introduce today's guest is e-learning evangelist Steve Atwall.
Today I'm very happy to have Ely Delaney on the show. Ely is a co-founder and lead trainer of YourMarketingUniversity.com, a marketing education company designed specifically to teach you how to take control of your marketing online and offline. Ely simplifies the complex when it comes to marketing your business and becoming the expert in your industry. Having trained hundreds of entrepreneurs and professionals all around the globe, Ely has been a speaker and trainer for groups such as S.C.O.R.E, David Fagan's Icon Builder Bootcamp, National Association of Women Business Owners, Arizona Small Business Association, and many more. He is also the co-author of Marketing Tidbits, 50 Quick and Easy Ways to Grow Your Business, author of Networking Tidbits, 25 Ways to Connect, Grow, and Succeed through Networking, along with the creator of the popular training course, How to Become a Networking Rockstar to Grow Your Business, which has over 500 students in the course. Ely, welcome to the show. I have to tell you, networking is a great topic of interest to me. To you, does networking necessarily mean lots and lots of connections, or is it more about connecting with the right people?
Well, Steve, thanks so much for having me on board. I really appreciate it. And when it comes to networking, of course, the most important thing is to have quality versus quantity, but you got to get in front of a lot of people at the same time, because unfortunately, when it comes to networking, you start off, you're kind of in that hit or miss situation that you don't know what's going to happen when you have a connection with somebody until you actually get to know them. And sometimes you don't know when that's going to happen either. So I'm kind of an advocate of keeping quality in mind, making sure that you're networking and connecting with the right people, but also keep in mind that sometimes you're going to have to hit a lot of people in order to get to that right quality as well. So it's kind of a little bit of both.
Yeah, that's true. You have to be in front of a lot of people in order to find those nuggets of quality people that are the right fit for your business. So when it comes to business, work, or even personal relationships, it's about who you know rather than what you know. But what you know could get you to the right who you should know. So, for example, knowing how to present yourself online, such as on social media, could connect you with the right people. Do you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. Here's the situation is we all have an expertise of some sort. I'm going to assume that everybody listening to this, you are an expert in your area. The hard part with that is portraying that, letting people know the right information to get them to go, okay, yeah, definitely. Steve is the rock star. Steve is the person I need to talk to about XYZ product. And so you gotta have a great expertise in what you do. And obviously, your social media presence by sharing great information, educating the people around you, building your list, all the different stuff that we know we're supposed to do as marketers. And if you don't think you're a marketer, if you're in business, you're a marketer. Just you get over it and start doing it now. But you got to portray that expertise, share your knowledge with other people. And that's where that next step of who you know ends up coming in, because as you make more connections, and what that means, people that you meet at a local chamber of commerce, a conference that has 3,000 people, or somebody you connect to on Facebook. It doesn't matter how you connect with them. But once you connect with them, you have to be able to portray the right message to them to let them know what your expertise is. And obviously without sounding like you're being the used car salesman with them either. You want to make sure that you're educating them, not selling them. And there's a difference between the two. But all of that kind of combined is what's going to attract the right people to you, where you're going to have those right connections becoming not just your customers, but your raving fans, your advocates, the vendors, your referral partners, the people that are going to tell everybody else about how awesome you are.
That's really good advice, actually, because myself, I tend to naturally be in that education mode where I'm just passing information to other people. And slowly but surely people start to like you. They come back to you and they ask you for more information because they know they can get help and advice from you. And slowly but surely, they'll start referring you to other people that might bring in business for you. Being in that mode where you're sharing information, educating, and helping other people is a really, really good way to go. You must have you're a networking guru. You must be a networking guru teaching such a course. Do you have a huge network of people you call on, your army of light rather than darkness, to help you with whatever you need when you need help?
Most definitely. I've spent a lot of time and when it comes to networking, how kind of a little bit of my backstory of how this all worked was years ago, my first company was a web and graphic design company. That was over 19 years ago. And I started out with the fact that I knew HTML, I knew how to play with Photoshop, I knew how to build really great websites, and I had clients that were just amazingly cool. I would build an entire website, start to finish, show it to them, and they'd say, "That is beautiful. Could you change these two couple words?" And I mean, like, they're the clients that we all dream of having. The problem is I only had like 2 of them. And I was like, this isn't working. I got to figure out this marketing thing. And so one of the very first things I did was join a chamber of commerce in my local area. That back then I lived in Phoenix, Arizona. And I joined one of the local chambers and started getting to connect with people. And the very first thing that I was taught was any chamber or any kind of networking type of opportunity, which at the time I didn't even know what networking was. But the gentleman who signed me up through the chamber said, "You're going to get out of it what you put into it. You got to build relationships, and people buy from who they know, like, and trust. So you have to be there. You have to get to know them. You have to become their friends first. Then they're going to get to trust you and want to actually do business with you. That's how this works." And so I took that to heart. And I started just going crazy with it. I was going to every event that they possibly would let me in the door to, and meeting as many people as I could to make these connections. And lo and behold, I actually paid for my chamber membership in the first month. In 6 months, I had tripled my business. And actually by the end of the year, I had tripled it again to the point where I was actually making some pretty good money. And eventually I grew that business into a full-on office with 5 employees, and we were closing 3 to 5 contracts a week. And the mass majority of those people started because of that chamber. And it was all because of networking. I didn't do any traditional advertising. I didn't do anything else. It was just meeting people. And so from doing that, I was out meeting everybody I possibly could, because I was like, okay, I don't know who's going to be a good potential client for me. So I need to know everybody in order to do this. And over time, I learned how to be able to manage my time a little bit better, because right at first I was going to a meeting at least once a day. But over the time, I grew that database to the point where I actually have a database of over 5,000 people that I've literally had face-to-face conversations with and shook hands with and talked about and had coffee with and had lunches with. And these are people that I've known. Some of these people I've known for literally 19 years. Some of them I still call on today. Some of them have been friends who became clients who, unfortunately I had one pass away just a couple of years ago. He and I had been great friends for years, but he started off as a client. And so that's where you think about it from a different standpoint of, you're not out to be the hunter looking for the next kill. You're there to farm. You're there to build a relationship and something that's going to build a crop that's going to last forever for you. And that's what networking really is.
Wow, that's powerful. In terms of the Chamber of Commerce, I hear a lot of people talk about Chamber of Commerce, and they have them all over the place. Every city has a Chamber of Commerce. And they have well-connected people that are CEOs or CTOs or people that are in influential positions. In order to connect with these people, you join the Chamber of Commerce. Just give me a little bit more information about how you got into the Chamber of Commerce and how you connected with some of these people. You said you went to events and you went to seminars. Then you just started talking to these people and you started presenting yourself to them and trying to provide some value to them. Yeah. That's all you did? You just joined and you just started going to all these events?
That's kind of how it started. And, my strategy has changed quite a bit because my clients aren't necessarily in the local market as much anymore. So now I actually go to more conferences and seminars, and I do more online networking. So I'm actually having conversations with people that I connect with via social media and things like that. But when I first started, social media didn't even exist back then. The closest thing to social media was a forum. And so what I would do is I would just go to these events, and a chamber of commerce, I think honestly, and I need to actually verify this with her just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure that I was in a conversation with my mother. I was talking to my mom one day about the fact that I really loved what I was doing, and I had this business I was starting, but I didn't have clients, and I'm pretty sure she's the one that said, well, maybe you should check out a chamber of commerce. And I'm like, well, what's that? And she goes, it's like a business organization, and I bet you have one in your area. And so I went online and I looked, and I was like, oh, well, there's one right up the road from me. And so when I went, I actually started just going to, they have like networking events, like breakfast meetings and lunch meetings and things like that. And, as I grew, it was funny because later on, they always have the new member orientations, and the chamber members, the actual people in charge, the president and the VP of marketing, and these guys that I've known for years used to use me as an example. And I had a running joke with the chamber that when he first started, Eli would come to the opening of a letter. And it was like the running joke with everybody, but it did so well for me. That's how I grew, was that I got to the point where everybody knew me. And when they have a ribbon cutting, I would show up and I'd come in and I congratulate the new business owner. And I'd say, hey, what can I do to help you out? And then, every month part of the chamber is they send you a newsletter. And of course I have the newsletter shows a list of all the new chamber members. Well, I was calling those people and said, hey, I just want to welcome you to the chamber. I'm also a chamber member. I would love to get together and have coffee with you. And it wasn't hey, by the way, I want to sell you a website. It was I'd love to get together and have coffee with you. A very different conversation. And so I would do these things, and that was just the starting point of it. I mean, I got to not just using chambers. And by the way, depending on your business, a chamber may not be the right fit for you. There are situations in different types of businesses where that isn't necessarily the best choice. But that was a good place to start. And if you're new to networking, it's a great place to start as well, because it's a way to have a community. And generally, they're tight-knit communities. They're very sometimes, like where I am now, I'm in the Portland area, but I'm actually in the outskirts, which is in Gresham, Oregon, which is just outside of Portland. And this community is so tight. A lot of these people, when they go to their regular meetings, they actually went to school with each other. There's a gentleman who was part of the board of directors who had been a principal for one of the schools. He just retired. He had been the principal for several of these chamber members when they grew up in school. So this is a very tight community, and it's a way for you to get in and build that relationship with your community, not just come in to make sales.
Do you have to be a bit of an extrovert to network well? Will shy people or introverts be left out of the networking game?
No, not if you do it right. And it's funny because that's actually in the course that I created. I actually have a bonus module specifically designed for introverts. And I call it the Introvert Survival Guide to Networking, because I naturally am an introvert. I actually am. Most people don't see that because they see me as an outgoing person. But most introverts, honestly, it's not that we don't like people. It's that we're shy in front of people, and we're uncomfortable in group situations, and energy of people. Actually, when being around people tends to drain us, where extroverts is exactly the opposite. Extroverts, if they have a crowd of people around them, they get energized by that. And so there's some tricks that you can do as an introvert that make a world of difference. And one of my favorites is when you're going to an event, show up early. Try to be the very first person in the door, because then you can talk to the host, and then you can talk to people as they walk in the door in a one-on-one situation. That way, when the crowds are there, you can choose to leave, or by that time, you've had enough conversations in one-on-one scenarios with people that you can be more comfortable in that group situation. But as an introvert, when you walk in the door and there's 50 people in the room and you're trying to figure out, okay, who should I go talk to? That's really hard.
That's really good advice, actually. I'll have to do that next time I go to an event.
Oh yeah, and it works like a charm because people love it. And if I can throw one more quick tip out there, especially if you're an introvert, go look for the person who's sitting against the wall by themselves and looks terrified, because guess what? They're an introvert too, and now you have something in common to talk about.
And this tip is not just for introverts. I think this tip applies to anybody that wants to be there first and be talking to more people as they come in, because they have the upper hand. Basically, they're waiting for other people to approach them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Whether you're an introvert or not, that still works massively well. But it's like the great magic for an introvert who really just doesn't even want to show up because it's not their natural place to be.
So how did you become a marketing geek? What got you into this whole marketing business?
It started when I was with my web design company, when I started the design company. And of course, I had that problem of I need to find clients. And so, of course, one of the first things I did was join the chamber, start getting into the networking scene. And of course, on top of that, there were so many other things I needed to learn because I didn't know marketing. And, if you talk to most web designers, they are not marketers. They understand how to make a pretty website. They don't know how to actually talk the psychology and the buying decision and all those other things that are learned processes. And so I was a big advocate of going and buying books, and I still am. I have a huge book collection. You go into any Barnes and Noble in the country, and there's a really good chance that my collection of marketing and personal development books will rival theirs. And so I started picking up books, and I started learning the basics of marketing, how things work, why people buy the things that they do, how the psychology behind the buying process happens, and different ways to market yourself, like, networking being one, advertising being one, being different types of things of even just, having a name badge, or how you present yourself, or if you're getting a book out there, just being an author elevates your status as an expert in your industry. All these different things that are out there. And I pretty much was a sponge and started studying everything I could. And I started studying some of the greats like, Dan Kennedy and Joe Sugarman and some of these guys that have been around forever, and figuring out, okay, these are the things that work. These are the things that don't work. This is why. And that's how I grew my business, was through networking and these other strategies that I started putting into place. And that was a lot of fun. And then of course I turned into teaching that to my clients as well. And that's kind of how I migrated into the teaching side of what I do now.
So before we get into your online course, how do you like to relax when you're not working? How do you unwind? Do you have any hobbies?
I'm working more towards hobbies. I am such a geek. I like to read a lot. And so I will read like personal development and even marketing related books for hobbies. I do have a daughter. I have dogs. So we go out hiking. We do things like that. Portland is a beautiful area to be able to do that for just like nature walk kind of things. And then, and I'm a sci-fi geek. So I don't mind sitting there and, watching a few episodes of Doctor Who to unwind as well.
Wow. Another Doctor Who fan. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
I grew up with Doctor Who, in the UK. Back then, it wasn't really kind of the top show, but now everybody wants to watch Doctor Who. It's an awesome show. So what was your passion before you created your online course?
Before I created my online course, and I've got multiple courses, before that, it was in the web design world. It was marketing and that side of things. Quite honestly, when I join into something, I go in 100%. Before all of this stuff, before I was into the web design or any of that kind of stuff, I was actually, grew up in the music world and ended up being basically a roadie. I was a technician working with audio and lighting for music shows, for rock and roll and theater and all that kind of fun stuff. And I had a blast doing it. Unfortunately, my boss had some recreational habits that affected my paycheck, and I decided it was time to move on, which I'm sure you can kind of fill in the blanks with that one. And so that's how I got into computers and that side of things, and ended up, my inner geek came out, had fun with that for a while. And then, once I started getting into marketing, I got so passionate about it, and I realized how many entrepreneurs struggle with that. Because I remember when I started out, I didn't know what I was doing. I decided that I wanted to learn HTML because the company that I'd worked for was a small computer shop. And they had a website, and it was designed with the first beta version of Microsoft Publisher, which you've ever used is awful. It's an awful program anyway, but then it was a beta version. I mean, they sent us the disks, they were literally 3.5-inch floppies.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I mean, this was quite a while ago, and it was just an awful program, and it was embarrassing. The website was awful. Like, most websites you go to have their homepage and their services and about us and contact us and all the stuff you see on every website, navigation buttons. Well, ours had all those. And then we also had page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, because the guy who built it couldn't figure out how to get the buttons off the template he used. And it was embarrassing. And so I was like, okay, somebody's got to fix this. So I started learning HTML. And then I realized, okay, I understand HTML, but websites have pretty pictures that that the HTML makes it look good. And so I picked up Photoshop, and this was back in Photoshop 3. Yeah, Photoshop 3. And so I started learning that, and I had it kind of a creative sense growing up. And so I picked up the design pretty well. And so I became a designer. I was passionate about it. I loved doing it. If I had a day where I didn't open up Photoshop, I was having a bad day. And so I did that for quite a while. That's how I grew the business and had a blast with it. And then I got burned out and decided, what's my next evolution? And I realized all these clients that I've been working with were struggling because I would help them with their business cards and their logos and their brochures and all their stuff. But then I would give it to them and they go, that's beautiful. It's exactly what I want. But what do I do now? Because they had just started their businesses, either getting tired of living the corporate life or got downsized and said, okay, I'm going to start doing my own thing. I'm going to become an entrepreneur. But they didn't have the first clue. And so I started teaching them and helping them. And that was when that transition kind of started to when I got burned out on the web design world. It's like, okay, well, what's my next evolution going to be? Well, actually, I love teaching. I love training people and sharing this knowledge and helping other entrepreneurs succeed. And so that's kind of where the transition came into Your Marketing University.
So you have a background in audio and audio production and the technical side of audio.
So I do have a podcast. It's called Driving Your Marketing. We've been doing that for 3-4 years, something like that.
Awesome. So we'll put a link to that as well. Let's talk about your online course. It's on Udemy, and it's called How to Become a Networking Rockstar to Grow Your Business. Give us a bird's eye view of the course. What do you cover? Who's it for? And why should people be signing up for it?
It's geared a little bit towards the new entrepreneur, anybody who's an entrepreneur at all. Whether you're selling courses, whether you're a coach, or even owner of a coffee shop. Everything you do is based around networking. I have a very, very big quote that I like to share with people a lot, which is, the people in your network are going to get you where you need to go. And that's what networking is all about, is that the people that you meet along the way are the ones that are going to help you succeed. They're going to help give you the advice. They're going to help find you the clients and all the different things that you need. It's geared as somebody who needs to learn networking, as in, I have a product to sell. I need to meet people. I know networking is the tool, the vehicle that I'm going to use for that. So let's go do it. But even somebody who's in the online world that says, okay, I need to be able to communicate with people better. This is very, very valuable there too. And so it's currently it's about a little over 4 hours, and I'm still adding more stuff to it because I keep coming up with feedback and more interviews and things like that, because I do have interviews with other great networkers I know. But it's basically from the standing point of what is networking, how to plan ahead of time, because if you walk into an event cold, you're probably not going to get a whole lot out of it. There's a difference between networking and socializing. And socializing is what most people end up doing when they think that they're networking. And that's why they come back and say, well, this has been fun. I've made a lot of great friends, but I've never made any business out of it. So you got to find that fine line. And so I have a strategy that I put in place in order to help you know what you should be doing before you walk in the door. And then, of course, where to find events. Because a lot of times people only think of, like what we talked about today was chambers of commerce. Well, there's so many other places that you can connect with people. There's literally hundreds of them. I know one site for just the Phoenix area that has over 600 events a month listed on it.
Wow. 600 events per month?
Yeah. And that's just in one metro area. See, and that's the thing, is that there's so many places like this that you can find great events all over the world that you can, I mean, you could literally go networking every single day. You could meet 10 to 50 new people every single day if you wanted to.
Well, in that case, that's 20 events a day.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. Yeah. And so I talk about how to find some of these places and the different types of places that you could network and connect with people. And then I also talk about, okay, now I know this is where I'm going to go. How do I pre-plan for that event? Because there's a couple strategies you can use to actually connect with the people before you actually walk in the door. That way, you know who you need to meet, who you need to talk to, and be as efficient as possible. And then, of course, how do you work the room? How do you actually, this is what I like to call showtime, is how do you actually talk to people, have that conversation? How do you gear it the right way without sounding pushy and annoying? Because unfortunately, that's what we see a lot of times. We get these guys that are, we like to call them the drug dealers, because all they want to do is push their business card on you.
So have you used networking to grow your business? Like, have you used all these techniques to get an army of raving fans referring business to you, telling others how great you are, and being your trusted advisors when you need help with something in your business?
Definitely. That's how I came up with all this stuff, was because this is what I used, starting both my web design business, and it's what I still use today, in order to grow my training programs.
Now, your course has 56 video and audio files broken down into about 9 or 10 sections. We talked about, how to overcome your shortcomings, if you like to call them, if you're an introvert. We also talked about where to network. So we talked about the Chamber of Commerce, but there's lots of other places. So there's meetups as well. I mean, there's meetup.com, which is basically set up to let you organize events. It's not really a social platform. It's just a place where you can put up your event and then see who wants to show up.
Let me add to that, though, because and I have a whole section in the course about this. But with meetups, if you're not having your own event, there's literally hundreds of events there for you to be able to attend. So it's a great resource for that.
Yeah, it's got lots of events broken down by city, by subject or topic that you want to cover. So it's great. It's a great resource. Even if you don't want to create your own event, you can attend a lot of other events, a lot of other meetups there. And there's associations. You talk about associations, and then you talk about conferences. So what's been the most successful out of all these for you?
In the web design company, when I first started, I was doing more local stuff than Chambers of Commerce had been the biggest thing. Now, for this business, because I tend to be, I'm now more global. I'm not as local. So my best results have been conferences and seminars, because what ends up happening is I get people from all over the world that tend to go to conferences, and a lot of times they are there to learn skills to grow their business. Therefore, they're great students. They're great potential clients for me. And then, of course, the people that are speaking at these events are also great referral partners and joint venture partners for me. So that's where I get the vast majority of my business right now.
Some people swear by LinkedIn or Facebook. How do you find those platforms in terms of networking?
I think they're great, but they work best as a combination. So let's say you meet somebody face to face, whether it be a conference or chamber or whatever, go onto those platforms and make sure you connect with them as quickly as possible. From the point of finding people, the magic with both Facebook and LinkedIn is groups. Go in there and find groups where your target market is hanging out. There's two types of groups you want to be looking for. Number one is the people where your customers are, your target market. Then there's also people who could be potential partners with you. These are possibly your peers, okay? People selling the same kind of stuff you do. For me, I kind of have a unique niche with what I do, because I can be a part of a group, say, for instance, for speakers. Well, speakers are great referral partners for me because I'm a speaker and they're a speaker. So that works really well. We naturally cross promote each other. But on top of it, some of the materials that I have and my coaching, my more higher end coaching tends to also work really well for those exact same speakers. So they can not only become referral partners, but customers at the same time.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great advice as well. If you do use Facebook or LinkedIn or some of these social platforms, take a look at both what works in your area, like the groups that are in your area, geographically located in your area, so you can go meet these people, as well as the right topics for your particular niche. That's really good advice. Now, you also talk about planning before you attend an event. You have to have some pre-planning, and you have to have your questions ready, and you have to have that 30-second commercial when people ask you, what do you do? And you have name badges. And I think there's creative ways to use name badges rather than just put your name on there. You could potentially use it for something else. I mean, name badges are kind of interesting because you have these stickers that you get in an event, and you have a marker.
The My Name Is stickers. Yes.
So what do you put on there usually?
So generally speaking, I will put my name on there. If there is space, I mean, for me, it's Your Marketing University. It tends to be really long to write on there. But here's the kicker with name badges. I do recommend that you actually get one professionally done for you because it's going to look sharp and it's going to make you stand out as opposed to the little sticker that always falls off anyway, right? Those things, the sticky stuff on the back is awful. I generally wear a jacket and I put on my jacket, and within 2 minutes, it's already falling off and it's stuck to my fingers. So get a professional badge done. You can go to even a local Office Depot or Office Max or Staples or any of those kind of office supply places. And generally for less than $20, you can get a nice one done for you that looks sharp and it's magnetic. But here's the thing with it. And you can go creative like what you're talking about and do something fancy that's not just your name as usual. I actually recommend make it simple, use your name. And the reason for that is because if you do something that's creative, like I've seen people that they don't put their name on there, but they have a question of some sort, like ask me how you can make more sales. That doesn't really help me. It's actually annoying because I want to know somebody's name. Because remember, I'm about a relationship first. The sales are important, but the relationship is what will lead to the sales. And the sales are hit or miss. It's like until somebody gets to know, like, and trust you, they're not going to buy from you. So therefore, right up front, by hiding your name, you've added a bit of mistrust in there. And so I recommend something that's simple that has your name, big, bold, easy to read. And the reason for that is because you want to make it as easy for people as possible for people to remember your name. I have a great story. I love to share this, and it's actually an embarrassment piece on my part, but it drives this exactly home. There's a gentleman that I knew for easily 3 years. We had seen each other at multiple different events. We always had great conversations. I mean, to the point of like, we would come up and say hi to each other and he'd give me a big hug and everything. The problem is I could never remember his name because the very first time I met him, he told me his name, and I'm terrible at remembering names. Like many other people, I'm a visual person. So if I see a name, it's easier for me to remember. But for somebody to tell me, unfortunately, 5 minutes later, I'm going to forget. That's part of the way my brain works. And a lot of people are this way. And so actually, every time I saw him, I felt terrible. I had this anxiety going on in my head because I couldn't remember his name, but I was too embarrassed to ask him his name because I felt like an idiot. And so for 3 years, this happened. And then we ended up going to an event together, both showing up at the same event. And this event was a conference where they gave out name badges, like a lanyard type of thing. And I saw his name. His name was John. I have known this guy for now, like I think 6 or 7 years. And since I saw that name badge, I've never forgotten his name. But before then, I couldn't remember his name for the life of me. And I felt terrible every time I saw him.
You're not the only one. I worked at the local university here for 17 years. Lots and lots of people knew who I was because I helped to manage the IT infrastructure there. But I couldn't, for the life of me, remember everybody's name Because I'm like you. I hear a name and then it's gone. It's gone from my head like in a few minutes or 5 minutes or whatever it is. Unless it's written down somewhere and I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Or I meet the person multiple times and I use the name. Another technique, when you are talking to somebody, they give you the name, repeat it back.
Mm-hmm.
So if they tell you, my name is John so-and-so, say, oh, hi, John. Glad to meet you. Repeat it. So that way it sticks in your mind.
It definitely helps. It's just, it's still, some of us are a little bit more thick-skulled, and it takes more than that to keep it there.
Yeah, for sure. You're not the only one. I saw, it's interesting. I saw at one of the events, somebody had a name badge and had flashing lights all around it. And I mean, it certainly got the attention, but it seemed very kind of immature.
And I kind of believe that too. And some people think that they're cute and they get a kick out of them. And you can go back and forth. Different personality types are going to like it or not like it so much. I'm not a big fan of them, but some people are. But the big question is, are the lights going to distract from them remembering your name? Like for me, honestly, I'm picturing that in my head, and I've seen people with those before, and I can remember the face of the person. I can remember what they were wearing. I can remember the flashing lights, but the words in between the flashing lights are blurry. I can't remember what those were. And that's the thing, is like my memory is kind of funky that way, because when I'll remember somebody like with John, that perfect example, I could remember where we met. I could remember multiple events that we had talked to, and what conversations we had, and literally what shirt he was wearing, and the dates and all these different bits and pieces of information. I could remember all of it, but his name was the one thing that just wouldn't stick in my head. And as soon as I saw it, it sunk in instantly, and I've never forgotten it since. And so you want to make it, when you meet somebody, you don't want to put them in that awkward situation. You want to make it as easy as possible for them to remember who you are, so they don't become embarrassed. Because guess what? If you're in a networking event, especially in a smaller group where you kind of see people more often, guess what? They're going to start avoiding you because they can't remember your name. And it's not because they don't like you. It's because they're embarrassed. And so if you can just avoid that, you're going to make their life easier, and they're going to want to come approach you and talk to you more often.
So bottom line, put your name on the name badge. Make it simple.
Yes.
And get your own. Don't use those stickers at the conferences. Apart from that, I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about the name badge, but one of the big key things is answering that 30-second commercial, or having that 30-second commercial where people ask you, what do you do? That's really important. You have to be very clear about what you do and be able to answer that question when somebody says, what do you do? So make sure you prepare ahead of time.
I was just going to say, when you're doing your 30-second commercial, write it out. Don't just wing it. Write it out and then practice it a few times. And the reason is not so you have this robotic, perfect script. It's just that once you do it a few times, it'll sink in better, and you'll get more fluid when you actually say it in front of somebody. That's one thing that people, a lot of times they get kind of messed up on it, is because they try to put their 30-second commercial and then they practice it so much that it sounds robotic when they say it, and it becomes kind of monotone and nobody actually really hears it.
And that's really important, because I mean, we are all doing different things. We're doing multiple things. A lot of times, entrepreneurs and business folks are not just doing one thing. They could be running a website. They could be creating a podcast. They could be writing and creating ebooks. They could be doing multiple things. So, what advice do you have for somebody that's doing multiple things like that?
Figure out, and if you do your research properly, you figure out who's going to be in the room, and then you focus on that one thing that's going to be most beneficial for those people. So as an example, if I'm in a group of podcasters, I'm going to talk primarily about my podcasting stuff as opposed to my networking stuff, or my, how to use email marketing more effectively. And I mean, I have all these other things that I work on, but figure out the people in this room, what's going to be the one thing that's going to be most beneficial for them? If the conversation leads to talking about another piece of your life, that's perfectly fine, but don't start there and don't try to do multiple things at once. The worst thing in the world is I see these people that are in network marketing companies, and I have nothing against network marketing companies. There's some great companies out there, but what'll happen is somebody will sign up for 2 or 3 different companies and they put it all on their business card and they try to shove all the information about 2 or 3 different companies in their 30-second commercial. And then it just becomes this big mishmash pot of goulash that nobody likes. And it just doesn't work. And so you just got to focus on one thing. And then if the conversation comes up, then you can bring up the other piece if it's the right fit for the right person at the right time.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think of serial entrepreneurs and they're doing one thing after another. And it's not necessarily that you have one 30-second commercial. You could have multiple 30-second commercials depending on which event you're attending. So yeah. I think that's one issue that people tell you to have this one 30-second commercial. And, a lot of people find that hard to do because they have so many different things that they're doing.
Mm-hmm. And as entrepreneurs, we tend to get excited about every one of them. So we want to talk about all of them.
Yeah. But have multiple 30-second commercials and memorize them ahead of time so they're just natural. They just come naturally to you when you talk to somebody and they ask you what you do. And you talk about in section one of your sections, you talk about showtime and showing up and how to make an impact. You talk about business cards, to have them or not. Should you have business cards? Because it seems like we have these smartphones and apps and people are sharing contact information. Are business cards still important?
I am a huge advocate for having business cards, and I think that anybody who disagrees with me is an idiot. And there's a very specific reason for this. And I understand the world going green and saying, okay, well, business cards are just a waste of paper, and some people don't like giving out business cards because then people are going to add you to their list, and there's so many different excuses as to why people don't like doing it. But I can tell you from my experience that the people that I meet that don't have business cards are the people I am much, much less likely to do business with. Because going back to, we get busy, we tend to forget, things happen. If I don't have your business card that I can follow up with you, I forget. I actually had one gentleman that I met at an event and I wanted to connect with him. I mean, I was like, okay, this is going to be a great partnership that I can send you business. And I said, give me your business card. He said, oh, I don't carry business cards. You can just Google me. You can find me. Well, guess what? I couldn't pronounce his last name. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to go through that much work. I'm not going to go, okay, now what was his name again? How do I spell it? That kind of thing. We live in an ADD society. You don't want to put up those extra barriers for people to make it hard for them. And when you're like me, where I'm running 1,000 miles an hour, I need something simple. So just having a business card, I mean, I have 6 business cards sitting on my desk right now from a meeting that I had last week. I have a couple of these people that I still need to follow up with. One of them is for speaking engagements. I plan on getting in the door with them to start speaking with them. If she didn't give me her card, I wouldn't know who to talk to. I wouldn't know how to reach out to her. I wouldn't have her email address. There's all those different barriers. And then on top of it, one thing about your business card is if you have, say you have a course, generally with a course, I recommend that you have some kind of freebie that you're willing to give away, like a guide, a report, a checklist, something, a little tiny chunk, the Cliff Notes version type of thing that you can use as a list building piece. And so my business card has my basic information. It's got my picture, my name, my phone number, my email address, and my website. And then on the back, it has a separate website for downloading one of my free guides. And so this is a great way to get people on your list, because you never should just add somebody to your list automatically. You need to actually get them to raise their hand saying, yes, I want to know more. So by doing that, I give somebody my business card and I say, here's my card. It's got all my basic information. But if you flip it over, and I literally show them the back, I'm like, this is what I call the small business marketing roadmap report. It's a guide. It's kind of based on one of my courses. I would love for you to check it out, see kind of how I work. And there's definitely some tips, tricks, and resources and stuff that you can implement right away. If you get value out of it and you like it, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback on it.
Yeah, that's great advice. Actually using the business card to get people on your list when it comes to meeting a lot of people. If I meet people at a conference and I talk to somebody and I get their business card, and on the back of the card, I write down when I met that person, where I met that person, so I don't forget later on. So if I have 20 cards, and a week later, I can't remember where I met these people. So I tend to write on the back of them where I met them, maybe a little bit about who they are, and if we have anything in common. So I make a little note and I put that on the back of the card and then I put it in my pocket so I can follow up with them.
Yeah, and that's a great way to do it too. I mean, I'm known to carry binder clips with me because I'll have everybody from one event. I bind it together and write on one of the cards or on a piece of paper that I stick with it. And so I know what event it was and what the date was. That way, just in case if I have a busy week or whatever, because sometimes, and we all get busy, and there's times where I'll literally be going to 2 or 3 events in one week and having a bunch of interviews and other podcasts and various things going on. So it may be a week before I can follow up, and I don't want to forget where those came from. So putting some kind of note or process in place so you don't forget where you met that person is huge.
And there's lots of ways to follow up as well. And you talk about that in your course, maybe connecting with them on LinkedIn and you're going for a coffee. But you also talk about having a virtual coffee date. What do you mean by virtual coffee date?
The virtual coffee date is, think about, when you meet somebody, and I'm sure that probably a good portion of the people listening to this have actually had a networking thing, and they've met somebody for coffee afterwards at some point. You meet somebody, it's like, hey, we should get together for coffee. So you go to local Starbucks or whatever your favorite coffee shop is and get to know each other a little bit. Well, you can't do that as easily when it's across the world. And so I have my virtual coffee or my real coffee dates with people that I meet locally, but then I do the same thing online using Skype or Google Hangouts. And so what I'll do, I love Skype. It's my favorite tool in the world for this specific purpose. I will literally reach out to somebody and say, hey, I want to have coffee with you. And they come back with a because, they may be in Sydney, Australia. And I've had that happen before. It's very funny because then I'm like, what we need to do, I want to get together. I want to have a Skype call with you. We got to have video because I want to see you. I want to actually have a real conversation. And I will go before the event. I will go and get a cup of coffee. So, I have my, a Starbucks cup or Dutch Brothers or whatever it is sitting there right there. So it looks like I'm actually in a coffee shop with somebody. It's the feel of it. And I say, okay, make sure you go get your coffee before we start because we're going to have an awesome conversation. And then, of course, I make sure that we're comfortable, if at all possible, to using the webcam and everything so we can actually see each other during that conversation. And even if it's somebody across town, I had the same type of conversation with somebody who is on the other side of the Portland area. I'm on the east side, she's on the west side, and it's about an hour drive in between where we are. And generally, I'd be perfectly happy with us meeting somewhere in the middle. But she was like, I've got a really crazy busy schedule. Is there any way we can do like something, phone call? And I'm like, well, do you do Google Hangouts? She goes, I kind of started to. And I'm like, cool, let's do that. And so we had a video conversation back and forth. We could see each other. We could see the expressions when we told jokes and all that kind of stuff. And it's the closest thing to a live face-to-face that you can really get. But you can do it with somebody across the world if you want to. Yeah,
that's actually a good point where you can see the person and you can see their reaction and their eye movements, their face movements, their hand movements. It's the next closest thing to being there with that person.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And then you have a whole section on the Introvert Survival Guide. That's kind of interesting. And looking for places to network, you create your own.
Yes. You can. It's actually not as hard as some people think. And I've got a full strategy on how you can actually do your own without spending any, if even just maybe a little bit, but generally most of the time not any money, and getting going. The first event that I created that was a networking event, originally the idea was that I wanted to do a client appreciation mixer around the holidays. And then I was in a mastermind group with 3 other people. I was like, you know what? You guys should invite your clients too. And we could have a much bigger event. And they both got excited. One of them was like, okay, excuse to party, of course. So we all got together. We picked a location, picked a date. I got it okay with the location saying, hey, we're going to bring a bunch of people. We don't know how many are going to be here. We're hoping more than 10. Well, Then we went out and all of us, so it was 4 of us, all promoted the event saying, we're going to be having this thing. It's a joint venture client appreciation type of thing. Come hang out with us, come party before the holidays, that kind of thing. We ended up having over 50 people at our first event. Nothing is better than being in a situation where, people are there because of you and you're the one that's putting on the party. Well, that's a great way to network. And you get all these other people. And if you partner up with somebody else, you get a whole bunch of people that you don't know. But as the host, people want to come meet you. Well, if you want to become a networker and a connector, that's one of the best places to be. So I go into that module. I go into a lot of detail on how you do that and how you put the whole process together and promote it and all that kind of fun stuff.
So you can do this without spending a lot of money.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's great. I think that's a great idea that you can hold your own events and be the speaker, the presenter, as well as having other people come and present. But people want to talk to you. You're the person that's hosting this event. That's excellent. Instead of you running off to other people, they come to you.
Exactly. Yeah. And that makes it really easy. And it's a fun place to be because then you turn around and you become the connector, the person that's going to help introduce other people. And that's a nice feeling to have.
That word, connector, I've been told I'm a connector because I like to connect people. If I see somebody who could possibly use somebody else's skills or use their business, I try to connect people. So that's a good way to actually be well known and have some business referred back to you as well. So tell me, you have an interview as well with Richard Wheeler. Who is this person?
Richard Weiler, and he is, he's a friend of mine. He and I spoke on stage together several years ago at, actually in my bio, you'd mentioned David Fagan's Icon Builder Bootcamp. That's how we met. We were both speaking there. His initial company was in the SEO market. And now he's gone into all kinds of other stuff. He's putting on some mastermind groups. And this guy's a speaker across the world that has done some amazing connecting. And this is actually a separate module that I've created in the course that I plan on consistently growing. And so I'm interviewing people that I meet that are amazing networkers and sharing some of their stories of how they're doing it and what they're doing. As a matter of fact, as of the time of this call, I've got an interview lined up with 2 of my friends out of Denver, Eric and Angel. They have a company which is the Experience Pros radio show, which is an actual real live on the air radio show. It's syndicated in several different areas across the country. And they are huge networkers and they have amazing connections. And so I'm going to be interviewing them as well. And so the series is going to go on. Richard he's an amazing guy. Some of the people that he's met some of the top internet marketers in the world. He spoke for various different groups, and now he's becoming a bigger connector as well with these mastermind groups that he's putting together. And so I wanted to kind of share his thoughts and his strategies and the things that he thinks about when he's out networking with people. And this whole section is going to be a keep on growing. As I have more people, as I have time to interview more of these guys, I'm going to keep adding these in.
Really good value there because you're interviewing somebody that's really, really well known as a connector, as well as associating yourself with that person because you're also a great connector as well. It works both ways. That's excellent. So let's assume that I'm one of your new students and I've just signed up for your course. What would be the first step to making the best use of your course?
The first step is to be sure to take notes and start at the beginning. Don't skip around. And the reason I say that, and I put that right up front, because of the fact that so many people, especially if they buy an online program of some sort, they try to skip around. And like I had one person, as soon as I launched this course, they messaged me and said, where's the information about the introvert's guide? And I was like, okay, well, first off, if you just look down the list, it's there. But it's actually I think it's in module 8. Let me actually scroll down here. I can tell you it's module 7. It's section 7. I said it's actually in section 7. But I highly recommend you start at the beginning and go through the entire program and then take notes with it. There are activities, there are questions that you need to ask yourself and you need to put down this information because if you just skim through it, you're not going to get as much out of it. And so many times especially when you've got courses that are kind of at your own pace type of situation, then what ends up happening is people just kind of skim through it and they pick out the information that's the cool, sexy stuff and not the parts that actually make the cool, sexy stuff work.
That's interesting because people tend to focus on the tools and technology rather than the techniques.
Yeah, exactly. And I've actually got a terminology that I talk about with that. I have a process I call the marketing triad, which is mindset. It just blanked my brain. Mindset, mechanics, and method. And, mindset is being open to learning. Method is your strategy. And then mechanics is actually the third piece. And that's what buttons to push. Those are your tactics. And a lot of times people focus on the mechanics, the buttons, the tools. What's the latest, greatest? How do I make my $1 million on Facebook by doing nothing but posting, dog pictures every day? Those kind of things, when the other pieces are the pieces that actually make it successful. And so I put that right in the course, right up front on go start at the beginning. And when you get to the end, stop, which, by the way, is a great line directly out of Alice in Wonderland.
Wow. Nice. You should put that right at the beginning of your course.
I think I might have. I don't remember if I put it in there or not. I think I did, though. So
looking back, what was the biggest mistake you think you made?
When I started going through the program and actually doing the recording, I'm a big advocate of batching things. And so when I did it, I actually recorded it all start to finish in almost nonstop. And which is great because I think that that's a really important way to be able to be more efficient in your process. And then you get into the flow when you're doing it. I find for me especially, that if I can just start at the beginning, go through the entire process, almost as nonstop as I can, I get better results. And because I'm kind of in the flow and I'm getting excited about my recordings and I feel like I'm talking in front of a group and all that kind of fun stuff, I do great. But what I did make the mistake of was not double checking my recording and actually stopping and checking things as I went through. And I actually found that I had recorded the entire thing start to finish. I got to module 3, which is section 4 in the course, and my computer had somehow switched screens recording. And I don't know how or why, but I didn't find this out until I was editing. So I had to go back from the beginning and pretty much, from starting at module 3 and move forward. Now, there are 9 modules here. So it was a lot. That was very frustrating. So my recommendation is that when you do create your course, chunk it down. Break it down into a little bit smaller pieces, because then if something happens, it's easier for you to catch and fix faster.
Yeah, so create chunks of it and then take a look back and see if it's what you expected it to be, rather than recording something that you thought you were recording but you weren't.
Right. And even like as an example, mine is screencast style with PowerPoint presentation type of methodology. So when I did it, instead of having one great big monster recording, I should have stopped and recorded each section separately. I could still do it all back to back and do it all in the same day like I did. But then I would have, when I hit stop under one module, saved it, it would have shown me the file and I would have been able to see, something happened. And so then I could have stopped and fixed the problem from there moving forward.
Yeah, having worked in the tech industry, one of the big things that I always tell people, save your work. Save your work.
Oh, so definitely.
Don't do like 4-hour marathon and then click save, because if something goes wrong with that computer, you're going to lose 4 hours of work.
Yeah, I've gotten to the habit of Control S, which is your command for, saving something. Control S, or if you're on a Mac, Command S. And I got to the point where generally, especially if I'm like writing, I literally almost subconsciously hit that about every 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's funny. I started putting stuff in Google Docs and it automatically saves as you type, and it's saved in the cloud, which is great in case you ever want to create documents and, save them in the cloud. But how did you decide what to include and not include? Did you have an outline? I did actually create an outline. I'm a big advocate for using mind maps.
And so I use Xmind. You can get it from xmind.net. There's a free and a paid version. I use the free one. I have never needed the features of the paid one. And so what I'll do is I actually map it all out first of all the different, what are the major sections of stuff I want to talk about? And then what are the points? And I would just kind of start blasting the stuff out of my head, kind of fast track brainstorming. And then I stop and I look at it. And I'll move things around, say, okay, maybe this will go better in this module over here and things like that. And that's why I like the software of the mind map, is because then I can just drag something from one place to another. And then once I've done that, then I'll go through and I'll use PowerPoint to create the slides. So I start creating the slides. And as I'm creating slides, I'll go, oh, this is something that'd be really good. And so then I go back to my mind map and add that extra section in. And so there really wasn't anything that I didn't add. But I kept finding, even as I was going through and creating pieces, I found that I kept expanding it even further and further, because I honestly didn't think originally that this was going to be this long. My initial thought was probably about 2 hours worth of content. And without the recording, with the interview with Richard, we're over 4 hours and 11 minutes or something like that right now for the whole entire course.
I think one of the things that you do, and a lot of Udemy instructors do, is don't record an hour or two long video. Break it down into smaller videos. So you have maybe 5 minutes for each video covering one particular topic. Don't have an hour or two long video, because if somebody's trying to come back to it and trying to go through it over again, they're fishing around trying to find that piece of information that's in an hour or 2 hours or 4 hour long video. And they're going to have a hard time doing that. So chunking it up into smaller videos.
That is actually a really critical thing in today's world. When I first started creating courses, which was over 6 years ago, we were doing generally a 90-minute session at a time. And over time, it got to the point, okay, well, we need to break it down a little bit. And then now, even Udemy, and this is the first class that I put on Udemy. I've had all the other ones on my own platform before, but this class, I put it on Udemy because I wanted to test how the system worked, kind of see what it was like, and see if I could bank in on getting in front of other eyeballs that I normally wouldn't, because they have over 4 million students. And so I'm testing it, but I found one of the things with that is they actually maximum decide that you can't have a session or a lecture, so how they call it, more than 20 minutes. And so I was looking at some of the other courses and I'm like, okay, some of these are only 30 seconds and a minute and 5 minutes. And okay, what if I do break it down like that? And so what I did was I broke every topic down as much as I could. And it makes it so much easier for people. And when you think about it, we are in a ADD microwave society. We want small, tight chunks. And so people can come in and they can pop in and do 3 minutes here and 5 minutes there and 10 minutes there. And, they can do just a couple pieces at a time instead of having to go through and try to say, oh, great, man, this video is 45 minutes long. Well, no, you got 5 minutes or 5 videos that are 5 minutes a piece, much, much easier to digest. And so I think that that's the way society is going, making it much, much easier for people to consume the information.
Definitely. And coming back to the course, being able to just get that little piece of information on demand when you need it, and being able to search for it and just get that nugget of information, I think that's really important. So breaking it down is definitely critical. Yeah. So you're using Udemy for your platform to host your course. Tell us some of the pros and cons of Udemy.
So this is the first course that I've used with Udemy. Like I said, I've created over the years, I think I've created 12 to 15 other courses that I've used under my own platform. And I have to say, I'm really liking it so far. There are definitely pluses and minuses, but the pro side is their system is really super easy to use. They also make it so when you upload a video, that video automatically is converted to the right format. It's web ready. They also, if somebody signs up for Udemy, there's an app for your phone or for your tablet. They make it all just work. They have the ability, if you want to use closed captions, which we're working on that right now, to where I can actually have somebody do the closed captions and then upload the scripts, and it's all done. It's all ready to go. So that's one major as a publisher, it makes it really super easy for me. I tend to be, I come from a web design background, so I have a technical side. I'm a geek, so I can do it on my own. But for a lot of people that are just starting out, if you don't want to mess with that, it's a great platform to start with. Now, the negative sides, you do have to go through an approval process. There's first thing, if you plan on charging for your course, the step one is to become a premium instructor. That's pretty easy. You apply and generally they'll approve you in a few days. The second step is that if you want to actually be fully approved and be in their main marketplace, you have to actually fit some pretty strict guidelines. They want their quality to be really good. You know, the intro video, the quality of the audio. As a matter of fact, my audio initially, I had some problems with it because my mic was a little bit too far away. And so it was giving off a little bit of echo. And they didn't like that. They came back and said, we need you to re-record some of this stuff. Now, luckily, I had caught that because of the other issues that I already told you about with the video being messed up. So I had re-recorded and the new video was fine from that standpoint. The audio looked good too, or sounded good too. But the modules that had been okay actually had more echo than they wanted. And they made me go back and redo them. So be prepared for the fact that they are going to be picky. They want good quality stuff. The great thing about that though is it makes you step up your game. That's going to be better for your students. From a negative standpoint, you have less control. When it's on my own site, I can run it through my own shopping cart. I actually use Infusionsoft for my back-end system, and I use Wishlist with WordPress. That's how I set up my own stuff. So I have full control, and they also go into my database, that's the one major negative that I have with Udemy, is that when a customer comes in and buys off of Udemy, I don't get access to their email. I can't just take their email and put it into my list and follow up with them through my own autoresponder system. That's my number one negative piece. It's kind of a hit or miss as to whether it's worth it. For me, my course has been up a little over a week and I've already got 800 as of right now. It says 819 students. So I'm okay with kind of starting there.
One of the other things I've heard from people that are on Udemy or have used Udemy and then moved off somewhere else is that sometimes they have big promotions. So your $200, $300, $500 course might be on sale for $10. But what's your take on that?
First off, if you don't want to be part of it, you can opt out. They do have that option under your profile. When you go through the profile, there's a spot where it says, do you want to be part of Udemy's promotions, marketing, blah, blah, blah. And you can uncheck those boxes and you can opt out of those. But here's what happens is that when you do that, that means that you're not going to show up when they do all their extra promotions. Now, my thought process is yes, like my course is $299. That's the price. If you go to Udemy right now, that's what you're going to see. My thought process is, of course, I would love to get the $299, but there's a lot of people out there that aren't going to buy a $300 course. There are a lot of people that will buy a $10 course or a $20 course. And there's a gentleman who is using Udemy who's doing really, really well right now. And he says, don't look at the per student income because that's going to make you get depressed. It's going to frustrate you and confuse you because you're going to see that, okay, you break it down and you only made $20 a person based on your $300 course. Well, guess what? If you have 3,000 people through your course, you're still making good money. Okay? You're still making some money. And so those $10 promotions and things like that are a great way to get people into the system that wouldn't have ever bought otherwise. There's a ton of people that for $10, they'll just throw $10 at it just to play with it because it's like, oh, this sounds kind of interesting. Yeah, it's $10. I'll buy it. And those are people that you would never get otherwise. So you've got to look at it as, would those people have ever bought from me otherwise?
That's a really, really good point because they do have a huge marketing arm and they seem to be everywhere, marketing courses, and you do get a lot of students in those promotions. So that's a really, really good point. Now, the thing about the email address and not being able to access your student's email, but I haven't really looked into it more in terms of what the policies are for asking people for something like that, or maybe sending them a link and they end up on your site where they could sign up for a list. Do you know if there's any kind of policy regarding that?
There are some policies, and you kind of, for lack of a better term, you kind of have to be sneaky about it. But we're not trying to circumvent the system. We're trying to just be creative on how we think about it. I always got to be careful about what I say with that, because some people say, well, that's not a good thing to say. Here's an example. Is number one, you can't just say, okay, here's some great stuff. I would really like to get you on my list. Here's my email address, or give me your email address. That is not allowed. But let's say, for instance, you put on a additional event, like say a webinar or a teleseminar or something like that. You could then send them to a landing page to opt in. You cannot send them to a page that's going to make them buy something. That is against their rules. So let's say they buy your course off of Udemy, and then you offer essentially like an upsell to a strategy session or a coaching session or something. That you can't do that. That's not allowed. You could do a free strategy session or coaching session. And of course, using that methodology, you would have obviously get their email address. So there are ways to do it. You just have to be really careful. I highly recommend you read the terms of service and what the rules and regulations are. That way you know what games you're playing. And if you do decide to try to, bend the rules a little bit, at least you know where the bending starts,
The other thing is that in terms of coming back to the marketing and the sales, is that they have a system in place where if you bring in a student to the course, you make more money. But if Udemy brings a student into your course, you make less money. Mm-hmm. So do you do a lot of marketing to bring students into your course?
This course has just launched, so I haven't done a whole lot. I've done a couple of very basic Facebook promotions, and that's it. Most of where that's come is because of the Facebook, or because of the Udemy community, is where my students have come from so far. That's the great thing about it. And that's why Udemy does have that extra power. And that's something to keep in mind too, is that if you are, if you're part of their promotions and stuff, expect to pay them. Expect for their affiliates and for their marketing promotions. They're doing Facebook ads and all this other stuff that, on a normal affiliate program, like as an example, the sites, the courses that are on my own site, I do have an affiliate program and people can sign up. Well, I pay a 50% commission on my training courses because I know chances are I would not have gotten that customer otherwise, and I can still make a profit. And I want to make it so you as an affiliate are going to make a profit off of it. It's going to be worth your time to help promote and share my stuff out there. And so I like to use the methodology of, let's say you have a product and your product you sell for $100. It costs you $25 to create that product. So essentially, if you sell it from your front door or you sell it on your website or whatever your product is, you would make a $75 profit. Right? We're sticking with basic math. But if you bring an affiliate in and you give them a 50% commission, then what ends up happening is that they take $50. It costs you $25 to sell the product because that's the hard cost of putting it together. And you end up making $25 profit instead of your $75 profit. Are you happy with that?
For sure.
Yeah. And see, you get that because the fact that you realize that that's a $25 profit. Now, some people are going to complain about the fact that, well, I'm only making $25 instead of the $75 that I should be making. But here's the way I want you to think about that. And this is the flip on this. And this is why this works, is because if you stop and you think about it, you could not have that affiliate as part of your system. And you could make $75 profit on everything that you do, but you have less sales. Or you can have that affiliate who would bring in these extra sales that you probably would not have otherwise and get a $25 profit. So my question is, would you rather have a $25 profit or zero? And when I explain it that way, a lot of times people are like, oh, well, okay, that makes more sense now. And so that's where I want you to kind of think about that, like with Udemy's system and even on your own with having affiliates, be as giving as you can. Obviously, you've got to make a profit, but be as giving as you can with any affiliates, any referral partners that you work with. And even if you're in an offline business and you don't have the online technology and stuff and you're selling your course out of, a box set type of thing, try to be as giving as you can with it and still make a profit. So let's say it costs you $100 to create your course and it's $300. Well, if you can still afford to give $100 to somebody else, yeah, they're getting a 30% commission or 33% commission. You're still only making 100 out of the 300, but you'd rather make the 100 or zero. So you want to be as good as you can with it.
That's really, really good advice there. Yeah, something is better than nothing, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You support your course members through a system that Udemy has. There's a forum system built in. So that's not an issue. Take a few minutes and offer your best, most practical advice to anyone thinking of creating their first online course or training.
The first thing you want to do, more than anything else, survey your customers. Ask them what they want. What are the problems that they have? And it goes back to old school internet marketing. There was a program that was created, and I don't know if it's even still alive. I'm sure it probably is, called the Ask Database. It was created by Frank Deardorff and Alex Mendosian. And it was basically a point of just a spot where you ask questions. It's like, what's your biggest problem with X, whatever X is, whatever your industry is. So like for me, I would say, what's the biggest problem you have when it comes to networking? And you let people give you those answers. Let them answer. What are the problems that they have? And just make a list. And then that's how you can come up with the best information for your course. That is your number one thing to start with. From there, there's 1,001 different things you can do, whether it's a course that's all video-based or audio-based, or you can do CDs, or if you want to do it online using a system like Udemy, or on your own website using like Wishlist, or any combination of the stuff. Don't overcomplicate it. Some of my first courses, what I actually did was I created a webinar and said, okay, here's the topic that I'm going to be talking about. If you sign up today, I'm going to also give you the recording and I'm going to let you in for $20. I'm going to sell this course for $100. And then what I did was my actual course was a webinar. It was a training webinar. And that's a basic, it's a very basic way to do it. And it's not the most professional, but it gets you started. So if you're at that point where you're just kind of starting out, figure out what your topic is, ask your customers what they want first, and then go, okay, what's the lowest common denominator that I can get something out the door that is valuable, that has value? Don't worry about perfection, because if you worry about perfection, you will never finish your course. I know people who've actually been, I'm starting to really be part of the Udemy community of instructors, and I find people who have been instructors for 2 years but still don't have their first course out. And to me, that's very sad.
Ely, we have come to the end of the show. I could ask you lots more questions about your course, but I think it's best if I left a link to it in the show notes so people can visit your website and check it out for themselves. We also have a special promo code on our show notes page. You have been so generous that people can get your course for $100 rather than the normal $299. Thank you very much for being an amazing guest on the show and for sharing such valuable insights and advice. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you. Where can people connect with you online?
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks, Steve. It's been a pleasure being on there. This has been an amazingly fun conversation. I'm looking at the clock here going, wow, this time really flew by. I can't believe we've been on the phone this long. But it was really fun. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, you can always find my main website is yourmarketinguniversity.com. Again, yourmarketinguniversity.com. And then, of course, look me up online, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, any of that kind of fun stuff. It's just / Ely Delaney, ELYDELANEY. And I'm very, very easy to find. I'm very public, and I definitely enjoy connecting with people. Do me a favor, though. If you're going to connect with me on one of those things, one of those sites, send me a customized message that actually says, hey, I heard you on Steve's show, Education Hackers. That way I know where you came from, because I'm much more likely to respond a lot quicker just by knowing where you came from.
Thanks for listening to Education Hackers. Check out the show notes and click the Love It button at educationhackers.com to send us some iTunes love. Until next time.